Hello and welcome back to the Fairbanks Year-Round Podcast. Lucky for you today, it is a solo episode, so you get to hear me bloviate and discuss whatever I want to talk about. So I took some time, actually over this whole week, deciding what I wanted to talk about and what could actually be useful to my listeners, and which is you, hopefully, if you're listening. That's what you are. And something that keeps coming up in a lot of my episodes is the talk of community. And I believe very strongly in building a community around yourself and all the positive benefits it has. So today I wanted to talk about the reasons I think community is so important and some ways that you can grow your community if you're new to the area or if you've lived here a long time and just have not done so. So community, when I say community, it's your friends, it's of course your family, it's the businesses you shop at, it's everything about where you live. And we're going to talk about Fairbanks in particular right now. But why would you want, and not everybody would agree, but why do I think you should have a good sized community or look to be growing your community? Why do I think it's so important? And I've kind of boiled it down to three reasons. First is the happiness quotient. I think if you are around people that enjoy your presence and you enjoy their presence and you joke and you laugh or you tell stories or you have serious talks, there's a ton of different interactions that you can have. That is going to spike your happiness up. And I'm a believer too as well that, obviously happiness seems to be the opposite of depression, but being depressed is much harder when you have a community of people around you. I'm not saying it's impossible. I am not someone who can diagnose that kind of thing, but it does seem pretty evident that if you have a lot of people around you that love you and you love them back, or, even before we get to love, just like I said, going to businesses where people expect you to be there and they like to see your face or things like that, it's important and it can raise your self-value. I have little notes here because I write these things down and then I forget. The next is personal growth. And this one's not talked about a whole ton, but if you look at the major relationships in your life and you're serious about it, I think you'll find that they help you grow. So you're born, you have your brothers and sisters, you have your parents, they've always kind of been with you. And you may not notice the changes they make in your life, but you do have to adjust to those things, even though you've always had them. But then you look at something like, let's say you get married and you now move into a house with your wife and or husband, your spouse, and things change. You have to coexist together and you learn and you have some personal growth, hopefully, in the positive, or you have kids. And my wife and I have talked about this frequently where it's almost hard to hang out with people without kids because we have such different life experiences now. And not that we're better than them, I'm not saying that. It's very different. It's like the things that you're used to doing, we don't even think about doing anymore because, we're in bed early or that's what everyone always talks about. Or, we have to think of what our kids are doing. They're such a huge part of our life. But they do cause personal growth. Patience. Patience with kids is a big one. Probably with spouses too, I guess. So anyways, these relationships you make can give you personal growth in a positive manner if you've got good relationships. And then also, if you've not heard, you are the average of the five people you hang out with the most. So building your community around, I just noticed that's not the logo. It's just an empty desktop. I must have quit out of something. Sorry, that caught my eye. But you're the average of the five people you hang out with the most. So who do you want to be the average of? And this is a good way to look at the people around you and elevate that. I'm not saying that you should just dump people that don't make as much money as you or don't think the same way you do, but you should be looking to have close relationships with people that push you towards that more personal growth. And then the last reason is financial benefits. And this seems like a greedy reason to grow community. And if you have ever known any real estate agent ever, a big talking point of marketing and everything is leveraging your community. Like the first thing you do when you get your real estate license, they say, hey, write down a list of everybody you know, give them a call and let them know, hey, I just started real estate and wondering if you've got any business, basically. The script's a little bit different than that. And that can be seen as, just using other people or whatever, but I don't think it is. So, you definitely can get there, but I think everybody gains from it. So, and I'm not talking about just the real estate now, but if you are looking for a job and you're very integrated in the community with your friends, with your family, with business owners and such. We've talked about this before. The likelihood of you finding a job goes way up and maybe a better job because people know, like, and trust you as opposed to being just some resume that got emailed in to them. So I think that's very important. And there's a bunch of other benefits that come with it. But those are the three reasons, like the top reasons. And I think they disseminate down from that. Those are like large overarching, but you're happier. You have more availability for personal growth that comes up more frequently. And there are a lot of financial, benefits that do come along with having a good sized community. And even depending on your job, whatever it may be there, and that may not be the main factor for you, but if you're a salesperson, it's a huge factor for you, such as myself. So let's say you're listening to this podcast, you're trying to get more integrated into Fairbanks and you don't know how. You've not done it in a different community. You've not done it in this community. And I am not going to pretend like I'm the greatest ever at this. In fact, I'm just now getting somewhat decent at it, I would say. So before I moved back here, I was in Arkansas and never could really build a community. And I've talked about this with my wife. And I don't know if it was just the area or we just didn't know what we were doing, but we were actively trying to make friends, and we just couldn't, find a lot that fit really well. Not that we didn't know anybody, didn't have any friends, but it's hard to find close friends. So here are some ideas to be able to grow your community. And they're, again, very broad, and you can get more detailed, and whichever one kind of tickles your fancy, where you're like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. I think I'm going to try that in particular. I'm going to put this spin on it. So this is not like step 1, put your socks on, step 2, put your shoes on, and then walk out the door kind of thing. Also put some more clothes on than socks and shoes, for going that far back. But first is putting in the effort where you already are. So in the community that you're already in, and we'll get even more granular, not just Fairbanks, because that's like, all right, yeah, that's obviously what I want to do. I want to put in the effort. I want to grow my community. But at your home with your, again, spouse, kids, whatever it is, strengthen those relationships. They're a huge part of your community. So we can't skim over them and say, I'm just trying to make friends or something to grow my business or whatever reason you may have. Your family is really your base there. So at home, and then we can spread that out even to your community of your family members, your extended family is what I'm trying to say. And they don't necessarily need to be in person, but something I do, and I've brought up multiple times, is I set reminders for myself to call family members that I don't live near and I don't see very often. And it's not because I don't love them and I never think of them, but life goes on, and you just get in your little rut and you're doing your thing, and you don't think about someone, and you don't call your mom for 6 months. And it's a bummer, but she's definitely, hopefully, a big part of your community. Your dad, your uncle, whoever it is for you that you want to grow closer with, it's a good idea to just keep that contact up. You don't have to have an agenda, just talk about whatever. The next part of your community, I would say, is people's work. And this is putting in the effort is more than just being who you are, which is kind of hard to say. I'm not saying you should change and become this bubbly person that you're not. Be you, be you, but also put in your personality, but put in the effort. So if you walk into the office and depending on your culture or whatever, you just walk by everybody, go to your desk or wherever it is and start your work without saying hi or having a little conversation. And that may be something you want to change a little bit. So again, in the real estate world, we're going around a lot. Not everybody's in the office every time, and people come in and out very frequently, and it's easy to just keep doing your thing. And so I've not always, but pretty early on, I try to, when I get to the office, if anybody's there, go say hi to everybody. And then as people come in, as I see them, I say hi. And there is the other side of that I'm a bit of a talker. Don't overdo it. Get some work done as well. Ask them how their weekend's going or whatever. It could just be as easy as like, hey, hope everything's going good for you. You don't have to like have a whole conversation, but it's very easy for people to get in these ruts, and they're just not pushing, to grow any relationships. And again, excuse me, itchy nose. You have to decide which relationships are worth pursuing. And if you're in a job that you don't like anybody around you, that's a huge bummer, I would imagine. I'm not saying you should quit that job, but you might look at getting a different job where you're surrounded by more like-minded people that you enjoy working with, because that is a huge part of your time. And then these are more minor. After your home, your extended family, your work, it's just places you go all the time. Like I'll shout out a local business here, the Woodway. I don't know why. I love the Woodway. I like chopping wood. I like all the things, and the Woodway's got all that going. And there's a lot of other saw shops, but just in particular, I like their wood stoves, and I love going in there. And I always spend too much money when I do go in there. But, just being nice to the people who work there. And in fact, just by happenstance, one of my clients now works there. And I sold them before they worked there. So I'm not saying like that's how I got that client, but it's always good to see him and say hi. And, we talk about his house a little bit, talk about his life. So just these places, or if you go to a restaurant frequently, or even if you don't go to a restaurant frequently and you only go there once, just put in a little extra effort to be nice to the waitress or waiter or the staff there. And, you never know what could come of that. But again, just putting a little extra effort into the places you're already at. So this takes very little extra time because you're already there. And yeah, you'll start developing these relationships, at least in a light way. I'm not going to get into the deep, moving friendships into deeper and deeper levels. I'm probably the wrong guy for that conversation, but that's one way to grow. The next one is your hobbies and exploring things that you like to do. So there's communities for absolutely everything anywhere. And this doesn't necessarily need to be a geographically locked thing, because a lot of people do stuff online. I've not been a huge fan of that personally, and maybe I'm just doing it wrong. But I like to do things in person. So I know I've talked so much about doing jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu is kind of an easy one because there's so much physical contact, like getting to know and laugh with someone seems, in my opinion, way easier than, I don't know, like a riding club maybe where you're, separate most of the time. So, but anyways, whatever your hobbies are, they don't have to be jiu-jitsu. If they are, please reach out to me. Because again, it's definitely my passion, and I try to tell everybody to do jiu-jitsu. And if you've thought about doing it, just reach out and I'll be your guide there. And doing these hobbies or starting new hobbies can be a little bit tough for a lot of people. It's a little bit stressful. Again, bring it back to jiu-jitsu. It's hard to go to a class where you don't know anybody, at least for me. Everybody's different. And I'm nervous. And I even we had Garrett Hartley on here who owns Revolution BJJ, went to his place, and it had been like a year since I'd been. And so it's a bunch of new people that he has there, which is great because his business is growing. I've done jiu-jitsu for a couple of years, a long time, but I was still nervous because it just, the unknown's always hard. It's like, are they going to, be a little too rough, or am I going to, do something and look like an idiot or something? And what I've come to is, not that I'm not nervous, is I just know I'm going to do stupid stuff in my life. I know I'm going to say something that's silly or might offend somebody, and I can apologize, of course, if I offend somebody, or I can, apologize if I just do something stupid, but it's going to happen. I tell my wife all the time, it's like, hey, this is not the last time that I'm going to say something stupid or do something silly. Last night in particular, we were digging a hole, and she just had some Crocs on or something, and she was standing too close. I was like, oh, watch out. I'd hate to hit your toe with this shovel or whatever. And I had my steel toe boots on, and they're new, and I like them. And I was like, oh yeah. And I just whacked a few times with the shovel on the steel toe, like showing off, like, oh, I've got these steel toe. And of course it gouged the leather up on these newer boots that I got. And I was like, well, that was stupid. And we got to laugh. And I said, I'm a man. I have all these benefits. I'm bigger and stronger than the average woman in general, I'd like to think. I said, but, sometimes I just do stupid things. So you're going to just get used to that. And I just know that won't be the last time. I probably won't put a shovel on my boot on purpose, though, to be silly. But anyways, so know that you're going to be embarrassed or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And that's hard to say, of course, but as with anything, the more practice that you have at embarrassing yourself, which I have a lot of practice, the easier it gets. Your face gets red. Even the last podcast with Charlie Leonelli, this office got a little hot. I wasn't embarrassed as far as I could tell, but I run hot, and my upper lip was so sweaty. So if you watch the video on that, like I'm trying to discreetly like wipe away on my mustache because it was literally dripping into my mouth. I'm hoping a lot of that didn't show up there, but got to laughing afterwards. And it's like, that's something I could be really embarrassed about. And in the moment I was like, all right, because I always try to make my guests feel very comfortable and like, hey, this is easy. There's no stress. And I'm over here like sweaty upper lipping it kind of deal. I was like, it's just steamy in here. I did get a fan, but we're in an old building, and whenever the temperature changes a lot outside, I don't know how the system works, but it can't keep up for a little bit and then kind of like levels out. So we got a little warmer, and I got hot in this office. So anyways, exploring these hobbies, know that things certainly can go wrong and probably will go wrong at some point, but you're finding like-minded people. And that's not to say that you should surround yourself with only people that agree exactly with what you agree with, which is pretty much impossible to do. There's nobody that's going to think exactly all the same things as you. You can make it close. But this gives you a variety of people because you maybe go play pickleball or something, and I hate to talk about political views, but maybe you play pickleball and you have a great time and you really like this other person you play with and they have varied political views with you. And maybe you want to talk about that. You don't have to, obviously, but you can get a different perspective from somebody you respect and like in a different field. And I think it brings a good perspective to everyone's life there. So that is something that just because you have one thing in common doesn't mean everything will be in common. And it will give you a wider breadth of experiences that you get to talk with. So that's another way. And then leveraging your current community. So this one is, if you have nobody, most people don't have nobody, but some people maybe come into town and they just know absolutely nothing and nobody. But you can leverage who you already know and who you enjoy, and by, again, putting in more effort with your friends and inviting them over to dinner and doing more stuff with them. And what you'll find happening is you'll start running into more of their friends as well and their acquaintances and things that they do, and just kind of, give opportunities to be in your community's life more often. And the last thing this may not be the last thing, something I want to add about that is you can get fatigued by people. And I'm pretty quick to do this. I do love being around people. I love, I wouldn't call myself an extrovert per se, but I do get charged up when I have a really good social interaction. I just feel like super energized. It's not draining at all for me. Of course, if you have a bad social interaction, it goes the other way, but that's true for anything. However, you hang out with enough people and you really like them, you're really hitting it off with this person, like, oh yeah, we have so much in common. Very commonly, I find that you start getting nitpicky on people, like, oh, they do this thing that's kind of annoying. I don't know why they always do that. I always say absence makes the heart grow fonder. Just remember that. And that's for family, friends, anybody in your community, that if you find yourself starting to get irritated, if you took a step back, you'll realize, hey, those are like little nitpicky things. Maybe they're true. I'm not saying they're not true, like annoying items, but you may be just seeing them too often, which happens a lot. You get in a rut with the same people over and over. You hang out with the same friend every Thursday or 3 times a week. Or when I lived down south, we had all of my immediate family close by. And if they're listening to this, sorry, but I think they would agree that, I think we hung out too much and we would kind of get tired of each other and we'd go hang out and we're not really like having that much fun. It was just something we would do like every weekend. We'd go hang out after church or whatever it was. By the way, church is another great community. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I did work actually for the Country Cafe in North Poles, one of my first jobs there. And the Korean community is very I was talking to the son there, and he's like, man, whether you believe in God or not, everybody goes to church because that's the church. Korean church is kind of their like community. It's where people find jobs and, for Korean Americans and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. But anyways, church is an option, obviously, as well for building community. I think it's my favorite part of church is the community aspect personally. So I think that's important for people to have. So anyways, leveraging that, remember that absence makes the heart grow fonder. So take some time away from people. And then lastly, just know that it's not the easiest thing in the world and just keep working at it. And I fully believe, whether I was in real estate or not, I know I brought up the financial benefits of me having a big community. Even if that wasn't the case, I'm just happier. Like I would still be looking to actively grow my community, maybe not as much in business hours and such, because for me, like growing my community is a business task that has an ROI on it, which people don't like to hear, of course, but it is what it is. Like I believe I'm a very good agent, and I want my friends in my community to use me. So I see it very much as a positive, but a lot of people's jobs, that's not it. You're an accountant or whatever, and your job is to do accountant duties. Shows how much I know. It's not to go out and make friends and do all this, but you can do a little of it, and you can do it in your off hours. Because again, it may feel like work at the beginning, but once you get this thing down pack, I think you'll find that the results are worth it. The juice is worth the squeeze, as they say. So, and that is pretty much all I have to say about that topic. So hopefully that is helpful if you're looking to if you're looking to grow your community. And next week we'll be back to our regular scheduled stuff and have another great guest on, so you don't have to hear me. You just get to hear me go, oh, yeah. I've been working really hard on not saying those items as much. Natural conversation, I do it a lot, but on a podcast, as I was listening back, I was like, oh my God, I'm saying right. Yep. way too much. So anyways, if you notice that now, you're going to notice it in the further episodes. I am trying to not say that anymore. So that is it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week. Hey there, thank you so much for listening. If you want more content from AK Blake, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, all under the handles AK Blake. Or if you want to listen to more podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, it's there, Fairbanks year-round. You may or may not know, I am a local real estate agent here in Fairbanks with the Summit Realty Group. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to move to the area, you already live in the area, or you're looking to invest further into real estate in the area, you can reach me. Probably the best will be either my website, akblake.com, my email, blake@akblake.com, or my phone number is probably the fastest, 907-651-8356. You can call or text. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.